Starting in 2020 when COVID began and through most of this year in 2021, we have heard a lot of controversy. In fact, any topic related to COVID-19 you pick up and it'll be controversial. You'll have people on two opposite ends. Doesn't matter whether it's masking, social distancing, testing, vaccines, booster shots, or treatment options. It doesn't matter. We seem to have two opposite viewpoints all the time, and there is no middle ground. And we have made tremendous progress from a scientific and technological viewpoint, breakthrough innovations. But even with that, COVID is not under control. And that's a little bit frustrating because I don't know about you, but I don't want to go to 2022 still talking about COVID-19. I want to see it behind us. Hello everyone, I'm Naveen Agarwal and welcome again to my weekly video update. So this video is going to be slightly different. Now those of you who are familiar with my channel know that usually I talk about technical information from scientific and medical papers that I read, analyze, and present to you in an easy to understand way so all of us can collectively improve our understanding of what is going on. And things are changing fast. We have too much information and we need to go understand what's going on. But in this video, I want to share with you some thoughts and perspective based on my personal and professional experience that could help us figure out why we cannot seem to get along, why we are so far apart. In my opinion, this is a big issue because even though we have made tremendous technological progress, we are far from the finish line and we cannot get there unless we figure out how to bridge this gap among us. And all of us individually are somewhat responsible to making that happen, right? We cannot look up for other people. We can make the difference in other people's lives that we touch in our own way. So I hope you will indulge me, but please continue to share your comments and questions below. Have you come across these conversations among your friends or family members? I'm sure you have. What has worked for you? What has not worked for you? How have you handled it? How has it changed your opinion? Have you been able to change their opinions? Or have you been able to find a common ground for the good and welfare for your whole family and your friends? I would love to hear that from you. So in this video, I will share with you two key perspectives on how our perception of benefit versus risk can be distorted. And that's the reason why some of these things are happening even more commonly today, because those distortions are being emphasized through our communications and media on both sides. They are being emphasized. So how can we come out of this loop? First of all, to see for what it is, right? To understand what is going on so that we can figure out how to respond to it and even figure out how our own perception might be distorted by it. So I'm going to share that with you and give you some understanding from research. Again, this is not speculation. This is done from the research point of view. There is a lot of work done already in this area, and I do risk management for a living, and I have studied perception of risk even from a cultural perspective. So there is a strong cultural component to it. What are your deeply core beliefs shaped by your cultural beliefs, your experiences? So we'll talk about that. But again, please share your comments and questions below. Especially if you have a different viewpoint, if you don't agree with this. Again, my intention is not agreement or disagreement. My intention is a conversation. So I would love to hear that from you. All right, enough said. Let's just jump right into it. So I want to share with you in this slide this framework, this model that shows how our judgment about benefit risk can be distorted by our perception. So let's look at it simply. You have a benefit side to something, you have a risk side to something, and we are making these decisions on benefit risk in our daily lives all the time, going from point A to point B, traveling, taking a vacation, making a big life decision. We balance the benefits against risks, and we might be doing it intuitively, or we might be doing it through analysis, whatever works, but we are making a benefit risk judgment. So now you could have a scenario where benefits could go from low to high, or you could have risk going from low to high. And let's say we have a situation where the benefit risk is right in the middle as a true benefit risk. And I want to show you how that can be distorted by perception. So on one end, you have something called a negative affect. So what's this affect? It's jargon, but affect basically means a feeling of good or bad with or without consciousness. You see something, you hear something, and it evokes an emotional response. You either feel good about it or bad about it at your own level, based on your experience and your beliefs. And that drives some distortion in your perception. I'll show you how. For example, if the information that you focus on is that risk is high, your inference will be that the benefit is low. You will feel that the benefit is low because you're focusing on the risk and risk is high, right? So take vaccine hesitancy, for example, right? If you have heard that, hey, these vaccines have been rushed through the regulatory process, not enough research has been done, we don't know the long-term consequences, and look at this data where people are dying. Risk has been emphasized. Your inference is going to be, hey, the benefit is not worth it. Why should I take that high chance when I don't see a huge benefit? I have not gotten sick, right? Nobody else that I know close enough has gotten sick, or even if they got sick, they recovered. So there's no need for a vaccine. That's a negative effect. On the other side, there's something called a positive effect. And how it works is, if the information that we focus on is benefit is high, our inference will be that the risk is low. We're going to undermine the risk. So if we are emphasizing on a message like, vaccine effectiveness is 90%, right? Yeah, in general it's 90%, but some people, they still got sick. We don't focus on that, right? Or it'll prevent many people from hitting the hospitals, ICUs, our system will not be stressed. Look at all these benefits. So the risk is really low of dying compared to other risks, or risk of severe disease is low. We're going to try to undermine that or de-emphasize that. Now this is an extreme example. I'm not implying one way or another that people are doing this, okay? I'm giving you an example of how something that is right in the center can be distorted by our perception. Either we perceive it to be here, high risk, low benefit, or we perceive it to be here, high benefit and low risk, and they are far from the truth. Nothing is without risk and nothing is magical, 100% benefit. If you are interested, you can look up this work by Paul Slovic. It's a book called Feeling of Risk. In my professional life, I think this has been one of the major findings that I've had in the last couple of years, where I have started thinking beyond just data and analysis and how people think about risk in my practice, and I'm using that in my practice today. Okay, the second thing I want to tell you is question about, okay, so where does our perception come from, right? We have some strong cultural beliefs, our experiences, our understanding of the world, what we believe in, and for that also there is a model, there is a framework. It's called a group grid framework for culture theory. Now, like everything else, it's not perfect, and the intention is not to tell you this is the only way, but it helps us understand what might be happening. And again, there's a link here that you can look up. So it describes 4 scenarios. The first one is individualism, where the sense of power comes from personal success, and what we are trying to do is push the boundary. We are here and we are pushing the boundary to go somewhere else which is better than where we are. We are pushing ahead. Competition, freedom is our emphasis. We want that. And we are well aware of that cultural norm in United States. Our threat comes from regulation or perceived excessive regulation. We don't like that if we are individualistic and believe in individualism. Okay, on the other end is hierarchy. Here, the focus is on maintaining a structure, maintaining a balance. And yeah, we want to make progress, but we have a guardrail, that'll stop us from falling down a cliff, for example. So we want structure, and we want to emphasize the rules, the laws, the policy. And what we don't like is disorder, chaos. We don't want a wild, wide west anymore. Okay, we don't want that. So there's an inherent conflict between these two types of cultural norms. The other 2 scenarios are not that common, but we still see them. Egalitarianism, where we believe we are on the edge of the cliff already, and we are threatened by external world. Anybody outside our own cohesive group, this is tribalism at its best. And we emphasize equality and solidarity. Group unity is our key to survival. And the other one is fatalism, which is status quo, flat, nothing changes. Power is not relevant. We emphasize acceptance. Just do the best you can with what you got. And the threat actually is choice. We don't want too much choice because it threatens the status quo. So you can see these are kind of four complementary opposing views, and they are not mutually exclusive. They are also not isolated to a nation or a country or a group of people or a minority, ethnic heritage. In a diverse world which is gradually interconnected more and more, we find them in parallel. And even among your own cohesive group, you might have elements of these cultural beliefs on some topics versus the other. And it depends upon where you are. Are you here? Are you here, 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 here? And on topics, you may range from one extreme to the other. And the other person you're talking to could also be in one extreme or the other. And you have to figure that out. And hopefully this framework can be helpful. So how does that affect our risk perception? Let's take the example again. In the individualism corner, the risk is high regulation, welfare programs. I'm working so hard. It's all mine. Why should anybody else get a free ticket, right? We hear this argument all the times or sometimes. Very valid argument if you believe on the extreme individualism. On the other side, hierarchy, the high risk is infectious disease. We cannot have COVID running around rampant in our country. It's destroying our economy. It's hurting our people. Alcohol, drug use is another example because this leads to chaos. This leads to disorder. So we must control it. And we control it by putting more rules, more laws, more policy. And guess where we'll have the conflict? We'll have the conflict here. And we are seeing this play out in the front of our eyes already. On this side, here, the high risk is global warming because it affects us all. Discrimination, it affects us all. And when we say all, it is our group, it is our tribe, it's our small group. And anything that's external is a threat to us. In this group, the example will be vaccines, automation, anything unnatural. Why should I inject something artificial or unnatural in my body? I just want to do the best I can. And if I go, I go. My time has come. That will be the belief that is shaping the risk perception. So to summarize again, as you have seen, benefit risk perception can be distorted greatly by what we emphasize. If we hear messaging which is emphasizing risk, we'll perceive the benefit to be low. If we hear messaging which is emphasizing benefit, we'll perceive the risk to be low, far from the truth. The truth is in the center. Nothing is risk-free, nothing is completely beneficial. So we make a trade-off. And this perception is distorted because of our strong cultural beliefs. And we have to realize and recognize that. So I hope this will be useful to you. But again, share in your comments below. Does it make sense? What have you come across that will made you pause and say, let me figure out what might be driving this person's perception? Where are they coming from? And it can happen only if we can listen to them with empathy, without judgment, and without first telling them what we believe, without imposing our beliefs on them. If we try to understand the reason for their perception, the drivers behind their perception, perhaps we can find a middle ground, because at the end of the day, our interests are the same. We all want to not only survive, but also thrive, right? So our interest is the same. We're just coming at it from different views. And in some ways, it is a great thing to have. In other ways, it's very challenging, especially when you have such emotional involvement, such emotional anxiety about something like COVID, which is perceived to be a pretty big deal. Please let me know what you think. Share your comments and questions below. I hope it is useful to you. I look forward to hearing from you. And I want to thank you for your interest and engagement with me. I just enjoy listening, getting your comments, your questions. And even when they are completely in the opposite end of the spectrum, because I want to really hear that viewpoint to inform my own thinking, to keep my own perception distortion under guard. I'm always open to that kind of conversation with you. Stay well, everyone, and I look forward to hearing from you.